Hello, everyone. I'm Mike Kenichi, and welcome to another edition of Valley Sports Rewind. I am very honored today. You know, if you talk about Derby football, this is a true Red Raider. He played from 1984 to 1987. He was one of the real good linemen on the team and was a part of 2 Housatonic League championships and 1 Class S championship. The one and only Marcus Buff Bartone. And Buff, thank you for coming on today.
Oh, Mike, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Now, I always wanted to know this. How did you get the nickname Buff?
Do you want the truth?
Sure.
I don't tell this to just anybody. I was 4 years old. I was 4 years old, and I know you're pretty familiar with Lorenzo Heights.
Right.
I grew up there, and I had disappeared for an entire day one time. Parents were looking for me. They were calling all around the neighborhood. Couldn't find me.
Right.
Comes in the night. Evening, I come in as if nothing happened. Long story short, I sit down next to my father. He starts complaining to my mom about the smell of the house. And my mom assured him she had just cleaned the house. It was immaculate.
Right.
He had his arm around me, looked over to his right, did a couple of whiffs, and said, "You smell like a buffalo." And it was at that point, and it's the truth. It's the truth. At 4 years old, my older siblings caught wind of that, and it went from Buffalo to Buff, and here I am.
Wow.
43 years later, still being...
I would never guess that ever.
No.
Not in a million years. So let me ask you, Buff.
Yes.
You obviously had to grow up in a time where Derby football was tremendous. You also had relatives that played. I mean, the Bartones have been playing for generations. When did the love start for Derby football for you?
Inception, conception,
right.
The moment I was born. I had a Derby football on my dresser as a child.
Right.
So knowing that the history of my cousins, and even the Bartones that were by marriage.
Right.
I mean, there were Bicedeckis.
Yes. Yeah.
DeGennaros.
Right.
I mean, those were people I emulated, I looked up to, and my family. The love of the game just came.
Right.
You know, but being a kid back then, you didn't have many options to play. We had 3 levels of Pop Warner.
Right.
I was always a chubby kid. Didn't get to play much. But it wasn't until I got a little older that I had the opportunity to really get a feel for the game.
Right. Now, were you able to play Pop Warner at all as a kid?
1 year. 1 year.
8th grade? Or
5th grade.
5th grade.
Dropped 21 pounds to play Pee-wees, and that was the beginning of my commitment to football.
Oh, wow. So basically, you didn't start playing again until 9th grade.
No, actually 8th grade when they created the upper school.
Right. You could play freshman. That's right.
We could practice, but we weren't allowed to play.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. So that lost a lot of favor with some of the kids, but just to be part of the team was all I wanted.
Right. Now, were you a regular every Saturday going to Derby games, whether they were home or away? I'm sure.
Rain or shine.
Yeah.
I was roaming the field, playing ball in the corner like every other kid, and standing on the hill. You know,
Right.
hearing the hill people, loving the hill people.
Place was packed.
It was a sight, and as a kid, it was a stadium.
Right. Oh, I know. You had to get there at 8:30 if it was a 10:30 game.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Now, were there any players when you were a kid that you looked up to, say you were 10 or 11 years old? I'm pretty sure back then, I mean, you had Dennis O'Connell, who was pretty good back then. You know, you had Mike Sullivan, Marty Palenge, guys like that. Were there any guys that you looked up to?
Yeah, a couple of the neighborhood, like Ben Blue.
Yes.
Like Benny was a neighborhood kid who he was the man as far as I was concerned. Other than Ben, I mean, then you had a little of the lesser of my closer my age, like Ronnie Leno, who I would see come as a kid. I would be on my porch watching him every day go to Pop Warner, and then make his way through high school.
Right,
and
right.
Ronnie was a worker.
Oh yeah, another guy who loved Derby football too.
Passion, you know. And then you look back and you realize, wow, you know, some of these guys like Buster Jadek.
Right.
You know, what you hear about him, you get to know him.
Yeah.
It becomes life altering. So these guys were all part of the idea of what I wanted to be and how I emulated my life in Derby.
Right. And you must have been a big Lou DiFilippo fan. I mean, he was the man.
He was
the guy. I mean, it had to be like, were you able to meet him as a kid?
I was, and I fortunately, he fed into my passion for Derby because there were 2 years when through my parents' divorce, I relocated to South Carolina. And my father, who knew my love of the game,
right?
He was a photographer for Derby football, But
Okay.
Coach knew I was down there, so Coach gave my father a jersey for me to
Right.
wear while I was out of state. And I wore that thing in South Carolina as if it was the best in the world. And it was about the time when my cousin Ronnie was making his way through.
Right. Another great player.
So I had
State.
a
Yeah.
lot to be proud of at that point.
Right.
You know, so those 2 years down there wearing my derby, I thought of Coach and my father all the time, because
Right.
Coach was a sight. I mean, and I
Definitely.
came into the picture. I remember coming into high school where we had the small weight room, and everybody
Yeah.
has a Coach DeFilippo story. And I can remember Coach getting down under that weight bench, 220-pound stack,
Yeah.
his chest, a huge barrel, could barely get that chest under there, and grabbed the stack with one arm, Mike, and pushed it up
And keep in mind, he was probably 70
in his
by
70s.
that point. Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
did a couple of bench presses with the stack after he could finally get his second arm under there. And then when he was done, took the arm out and lowered the stack back down.
Yeah, I've heard that so many times too. And if you can't get motivated to play, seeing a guy do that, you never will.
No.
You know, I think it was your eighth grade year, Charlie DeCenzo took over the team.
Yes.
And Lou had left. So you kind of knew you were going to be playing for Charlie DeCenzo. Had you known about him at all or not?
Vaguely.
Right.
Vaguely. Because Charlie was pretty nondescript
Right.
up until that point. You knew who he was,
Right.
but you didn't really know who he was until he took over.
Right.
You know, unless you were a position player and you played for him, under him, you didn't get to truly see him. But when he became the head coach,
Yeah. Now, was there disappointment that you at the time that you weren't going to be able to play for Lou? I mean,
Personal.
There probably had
absolutely,
to be, right? Yeah.
I mean, it was a dream.
right.
As a kid, again, you heard the lore, all the stories of Coach, and
right.
having the personal relationship that I was fortunate to have. I mean, I was Tiger. I mean, like everybody else was Tiger. Hey, Tiger,
Right.
you know. But you wanted to play for him.
Definitely.
You wanted to be
Yep.
one of the next in the long line to play for Coach.
Right.
But when he left, we knew Charlie was the man.
Right. So let's talk about your freshman year. You mentioned eighth grade you played, you got to practice, and I believe Johnny Oko was the head coach at the time.
Yeah.
Right. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, even Tommy D'Onofrio was on the staff, as well as, was Andy Mancini there?
Actually,
or?
let me take a step back. When I was in eighth grade, it was Wayne Luciani.
Oh, so it wasn't Oak.
Oak was the
assistant
assistant,
coach.
and
Okay.
Tommy was a
helper,
first
volunteer.
helper.
Right.
And then Coach Luciani got an opportunity to go to the next. I don't know if it was to Amity or to the next level, and Coach Oko stepped up.
Right.
And we had a good year. I mean, we had a solid team.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, that was Ronnie Leno. Was it No, it wasn't Ronnie Leno's class. It was what class would that be? Would that be Danny Shea's class that you practiced with that year when you were in eighth grade?
No, Benito and Gabinelli and
Oh,
Lewis.
okay. So Jimmy Lewis and
Yeah,
all those
yeah.
guys, right? And you could see big things with those guys. I mean, you could tell Jimmy Lewis was going to be a great player.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you. You were a tough kid, but were you nervous going to practice at the time in eighth
Never.
grade? Never. So you just
Never.
were glad to be out there.
Loved
right?
it.
Was it tough to go to games and be on the sidelines and not be able to play at the time, or?
That was the hard part. I think for
Right.
any kid, you want to relish in the game and be part of the game, but
Right.
you knew that you got your fair share of hits during the week,
Right.
Because practices were real, even at that level. They were hard,
Right.
they were intense, and that's why we were successful.
Right. And I definitely think that was good for you to be able to practice that year because it got you ready for your freshman year.
Sure.
That's the one thing that hurts a player sometimes when they aren't able to play Pop Warner. They kind of don't get to learn the system like they need
Absolutely,
to. So
totally agree.
that was definitely a great thing. So talk about your freshman year. Now let me ask you, was Chris King the quarterback freshman year, or was it Tony Pick, or was it
Kinger was a quarterback.
Kinger was
As a matter
the
of fact, I don't think Tony didn't play his freshman year. His parents made a decision scholastically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Anthony wasn't able to play. I'm so glad his parents reconsidered. I did a lot of bargaining at his house to
Right.
get him. But yeah, Chris was our quarterback.
Right.
Ray McGee was our tailback.
Now did Oko take over as freshman coach
Yes.
at that point?
Yeah.
Right. And I believe I know D'Onofrio was there with Oko, but I feel
Yes.
like there was one other guy with them, and didn't John Dorsch help out
Johnny
a little
Dorsch
more?
helped out. Yeah,
Right.
let me see. Brett Schneider helped out sometimes. I mean, there were a couple of guys. Let me see. It escapes me because.
Right.
Oh my Lord, forgive me. Oh, There was Sadik, Joey Sadik.
Yes, yeah.
Joey helped out a lot. And forgive me, Joey. But yeah, those guys were incredible with us.
Right.
Because we were nuts.
Right.
And they could see that, even at the freshman level, that we were going to be a handful if they could get us in the right spots.
You know, sometimes I think, though, you know, it could be a coach's nightmare to try to keep everybody out of trouble. But at the same time, it could be a coach's dream, because when you have kids nuts like that, you know they're going to go for the wall. I mean, I look at a guy like Nick Rizzio. You didn't want to mess with Nick,
him.
you know.
Him.
Nick would hurt you, you know. And then you had a kid like Chris Luchow, who he was a very good student. He was a quiet kid, but he could really hit you if he needed to.
Yeah, we used to call him our Green Hornet.
Right.
Because even during drills, he was the first one at every drill. He was, never let up.
Right.
Beginning to end. And I use him as an example because Chris was a self-made player.
Right.
He played freshmen, and he had absolutely no knowledge of the game. No knowledge of the game.
Right.
I mean, his father was old school Polish.
Right.
And he learned the game as a freshman. And I remember David Foley, he burnt himself in a macaroni accident.
Oh, jeez.
He couldn't play football, so Chris stepped in. And you wouldn't have realized that he never knew the game.
Right.
I mean, he was a natural.
Yeah, he was a good center for you guys, and we'll get into that more. Talk to me about that freshman year. How did you guys do? I mean, I know it's a long time ago, but I think you had a successful season, correct?
We were 6-3.
Right.
We lost to Ansonia.
And keep in mind, you know, Greg Pettinella didn't go to Derby his freshman year. He went to Notre Dame.
Notre Dame.
Yeah, so you didn't have Pettinella.
No, we were lacking in the athlete end of it.
Right. And if I'm not mistaken, too, that was probably John Del Pret's first year playing football as well, correct? Because he was, and, you know, so you had guys that had to kind of learn the game.
Lou Badalino,
Yeah.
John Del Pret. These are kids Winston Dawson.
Right.
These are guys who never played the game. Catholic school kids who never played
And
Pop Warner.
these are guys, though, that all contributed down the road. So, I mean, you know, even though they didn't really have a long introduction, I mean, this was just a great group of guys. I mean, it really was. And I'm also trying to think. You mentioned Ray McGee was your tailback. Who was Nick Rizzio the fullback that year, or was it Mark Del Moro?
It was Del.
Right.
Well, they split time, much like they did their entire careers.
Right.
But because we had numbers.
And Mark at 5'6", he was a tough kid as well. You know, I mean, he played like he was 6'5".
Absolutely.
And you know, the varsity that year had a good year. They had bounced back from a 5-5 year. They went 8-2.
8-2.
But the one thing that was killing Derby for years was not being able to beat Ansonia, which we're going to get to in a second. Let me ask you. You probably were 5 years old when Derby last beat Ansonia, so you probably don't really have a recollection of them beating them.
Winning.
So how frustrating was that to go to games all those years and see Ansonia win like that?
It was difficult, especially when you start playing the other kids on the sidelines in those games.
Right.
Because there's no more trash talking than young kids when their varsity team is winning.
Winning, yeah.
You know, so it was pretty tough.
Right.
Never escalated into any fisticuffs, but it was tough to handle sometimes.
Right.
But next year was going to be our year. We knew it.
Right.
Even when we got drubbed 35-0, we knew next year was going to be our year.
Right. That was a good Ansonia team, too, that year, that 84 team.
It was.
So let's talk about 85 season. I mean, let me ask you, you come into, you know, a staff like Charlie DeCenzo, Frank Alou, John DeFrancisco, Frank Zuba.
Yeah.
I mean, these were guys that, they were intense coaches. You know, Charlie is a very, you know, soft-spoken man, but on the field, you know, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, he'll let you know about it. And, I mean, you know about Frank Alou. You mess up his defensive backs, he will let you pay for it.
Yes.
Talk about what that sophomore year was like. I think it was a good group of seniors, and I think that's why you guys won. You had guys like Danny Shea, Mike Jadek, Fossey, Tommy Abel,
Ronnie Sheehy. I mean,
right. Even
Jimmy Stewart,
Mark Gradadori. I mean,
Mark Rutt, Mark Searles. I mean, these guys were that. They were nuts,
right?
But they were close.
Yeah, and that helps.
There were no cliques. Right. That was the beautiful thing about that team, because you saw that was a brotherhood,
right?
You know, and when you came in, and let me tell you, Freshman Friday was real.
Yes,
it was real, and it was welcomed by the freshmen.
Right.
I mean, that was your indoctrination into the family, and it wasn't anything bad. But
no,
those once you were able to get past it all, it was a brotherhood.
Right.
And that group of seniors
it really
was
was.
that.
That's what they were doing. They were treating you like big brothers.
And that's what it was.
You know, as sophomores, you're always told you got to carry the pads in for them and put them away.
It.
and you can't. Back then, missing practice was not allowed. You missed practice, you paid for it.
You paid a price.
By the coaches and the seniors. So
Yeah.
But talk about that team a little bit. They suffered a tough loss to Lyman Hall early in the year.
Oh, yeah.
In the pouring
in the
rain.
mud.
Yeah, that was a brutal game. It was also that same year there was a hurricane, which was affecting everybody from playing. It took, I think, like a Monday to finally
Postponed our game against Amity.
Right, and you guys had to play them on a Monday.
On a Monday.
But, I always look to the game that you guys needed to win. You had to get over that hump against Ansonia, and Ansonia is number 1 in the state.
Yeah.
It's at Nolan Field. Derby hasn't beaten them in 9 straight years and 11 straight games. Just talk about that game. I mean, what a job the defense was that day. Johnny Bogart was tremendous. The guys up front were unbelievable. I mean, Jeffrey Coppola, that was maybe the only game I saw him look like he was human.
Oh, God. Yeah, Jeff.
Yeah.
Jeff was a tremendous quarterback.
Right.
But you knew what you were going to get. His lack of mobility was his only hindrance.
Right.
So our front guys, they did that. They slanted. They didn't stunt much. Didn't need to. But they were able to control the point of attack, our front four.
Yeah.
And make just enough penetration. And then coach would call little cross blitzes here and there, against the flow most times.
Right.
And it really, it's upset their scheme somewhat.
Right.
And then once you got them off balance, that was it. You took them out of their game. And you just didn't run on us.
Right. They had
You just
no
did not
running
run
game
on
that
us.
day,
And
no.
that was our mentality. That was going to be our mentality no matter what. Didn't matter who you were.
Right.
Even starting as a sophomore. We knew that you didn't run on Derby.
Right.
I don't care who you were, how good your running back was. We're going to beat you at the point of attack.
And I think that team had 6 or 7 shutouts that year. I think, in fact, 3 straight games, I think they shut out teams. I mean, they were just so good. Talk about, you guys get an early touchdown. Saros throws a pass to Mark Gretadoria. He catches it for an early score.
Yeah.
Late in the game, the Derby defender falls down, and Ahern runs it all the way for a touchdown. And you're probably thinking, here we go. They're going to do it to us again. They don't get the 2-point conversion. But that last sequence, Buff, that 4th and 15, that was just crazy, and they miss it by a yard.
Yeah.
I mean, what were you feeling like at that moment?
I remember I was on the sideline next to Cisco Salazar. Right. And we were, turning and didn't know what to think because we couldn't see.
Right.
There were guys taller than us. I mean, we were making our way. And, you were just waiting. Unfortunately, you were waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Right.
Because we worked so hard. The guys played so hard. And you knew the game wasn't over.
Right.
And when it like you said, 1 yard might have been 1 mile.
Right.
Because it was.
And keep in mind, Coppola went out and James Lane came in for that one play. And a Derby fan's probably thinking, they got their backup in. This is good for us.
Jimmy was
and
good.
Then he throws a nice pass.
Yeah, he did.
Right to McNamara, I think.
Terry was tough.
And you guys hold them. They miss it by 1 yard. And then keep in mind, it looked like Saros was almost going to get a safety taking that knee. That was scary.
I hate being down that far.
Right. But what was the feeling like when you see Saros take that knee and you're seeing all the guys run, the fans are running? What was that feeling like? That was your first time ever beating Ansonia and ever seeing a win against Ansonia.
And my thought was beginning of the end for Ansonia. And that was going to be our run.
Right.
But it was like our Super Bowl.
Right. And you beat them on their field.
On their field.
Which you needed to do. They were number 1 in the state.
The fans, the pouring on the field. I mean, right. I have the picture from the old Evening Sentinel.
Right.
From up above. Somebody took it from up above. And the mass on the field was wonderful. And it was elation. It was, like I said, it was our Super Bowl.
Right.
But unfortunately, we knew a lot more work to come.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And, you guys get that win. Then you get a tough loss on Thanksgiving to Shelton on a Saturday morning. You guys had a lead late in the game, and they got a long run. They win in overtime. Now, tell me the story if this is true or not. I've always heard that the coaches weren't sure if they wanted to play that state championship game. They had figured, we just lost the game. Maybe we shouldn't go because we backed in, but... Is there truth to that? Was there some hesitation about playing that championship game?
I think if you talk about probably Charlie's initial...
I think he was devastated over that loss.
Yeah, because we
And they had been a thorn in his side early on in his career.
Yeah, Riggio he had Charlie's number.
Yeah, yeah.
But we lost that game. They didn't beat us. We lost that game.
Right.
So after a lousy week of practice, Mike. I mean,
really?
It was awful. I mean, it was we were feeling really good about ourselves.
Right.
You know, we were reading the newspapers. We were reading all the headlines and listening to everybody.
And plus, I think beating Ansonia, it's hard to get past that moment.
That was it.
You know, there was a hangover from that, and it's really hard.
And it manifested itself later on in the season. I mean, we played lesser competition from after Ansonia, and we were able to beat up on them.
Right.
But you play against a team who's physical. And the team plays like their coach.
And a double L school, yeah.
I don't care about the double L school. And I'm sorry, man. I might be the one guy in Derby who we've always been small. It's us against the world. And I don't care if you're double L, double S. We're playing you.
Right. And Shelton played Derby like it was their. Yes. If Ansonia was Derby's game, Shelton was
absolutely.
Derby was Shelton's game, and Shelton hated Derby.
Yes, they did.
They could be 1-8 going into that game. They're gonna play you like they're 8-1,
and they did every year.
Right.
I mean, and that's what happened. They were big. They were big, and they controlled the line of scrimmage that game.
Right.
So we weren't able to get our runs, our belly series, our simple smashes. We couldn't do anything.
Right.
You know, and that was pretty much the tone of that game.
Right. So you guys decided to play the state championship game.
Yeah.
You know, the night before was a tragic night in Derby, the River Restaurant. And I know Chris Luchow had worked there, and there was concern. Did he come out? You know, that was a tough day for everybody the next day. And to go play that game, I think what you guys were able to do for 48 minutes was, you know, take it off everybody's mind for a few, you know, maybe an hour or two. You guys dominated that game. I mean, this was a big team. I mean, Immaculate was huge. And right from the start, you guys came out and just smacked them around. And I look at Jamie Gagnon stepping in for Abel for one play and catching a touchdown pass. Yeah. I mean, that's what I mean about that team. If one guy was down, the other guy would pick you back up.
And that's how we believed it, though. And that's how we practiced. You know, you had your varsity, you had your JV, but systematically, you knew what the other guy was doing because varsity went first. Yeah. And then you're watching your position.
Right.
You're watching that varsity player every time, and when it's your time in, you know what's going on.
Right.
So it became. I mean, Jamie knew what was happening. He was in the right spot.
Right. Very underrated player. Sometimes he doesn't get the recognition he deserves, but I mean, he always caught big passes.
Most tight ends in Derby don't.
Right.
You know, they're blockers, so to speak.
Right.
Once in a while, you get an athlete. You know, we had a nice series of athletes between Mike Olenowski, Jamie Gagnon at tight end, Kevin Burns.
Yes.
You know, we had some nice athletes at that tight end position.
Right. So let me ask you, you guys win the state championship. I've always talked to everybody, and everybody who I talked to says the Ansonia victory meant more. Did Ansonia mean more to you than the state championship?
Good Lord, yes.
Yeah, and keep in mind, state championships were still relatively new back then. You know, I think it came in 76, so it was still kind of new.
Yeah.
So I think, again, a great season is always when you beat Ansonia. I mean,
you know that.
Yeah, so I mean, you can't compare it, but was it a good feeling to win a state title?
Yeah, because it gave us, finally, it felt like it gave us state recognition.
Right.
You know, we knew about the history, and we were all brought up on our history.
Right.
We all wanted to be part of history. And now this state championship kind of gave that group of guys their mark in history.
Right. And it kind of put Charlie on the map.
Yeah, it did.
Because he went from being a good coach, still kind of new.
Lose.
Right. He started to get out of the shadow a little bit.
Yeah, he did.
So let's talk about your junior year. I believe you started at tackle on offense, correct?
Yes.
And you played defense as well a little bit. Your junior year.
I started most games, but we had Ronnie Benito and Chris Carloni who were seniors.
Right. So they would rotate.
Would rotate in.
Right.
But I was bigger than the two of them. You know, I was 225 pounds as a junior.
Right.
You know, they were 175.
And back then it wasn't easy to start till your senior year because you had so much talent.
Yeah.
So you really had to work hard to get that spot. I mean, was that your goal though? I want to be on this field junior year.
Absolutely.
Right.
I mean, I wanted to be on the field as a sophomore.
Right.
You know, and Charlie gave me a chance early on until that Lyman Hall game, when in the mud you just as a 180-pound kid playing against two kids. I know their names, Ralph Riley and Greg Meyerson.
Yeah.
From Lyman Hall, absolutely buried me. You know, and that's when Charlie was like, "Listen, you're too small.
Right.
You're too small at this point." And so it was JV, strictly JV as a sophomore from the game 3 on.
Right, which was probably good for you. It got you to, get more reps in. And, go against kids that you're used to going
Yeah.
against. This senior class, you were a junior.
Yes.
A lot of people have always said they didn't expect much from this team.
No.
Yet this
No.
team went out there, and I mean, Jimmy Lewis was tremendous. Bobby Sobin, Walt DeForest, Pete Sackey, so many, and Chris King steps in as quarterback that year. I mean, talk about that team a little bit, because that team started the year 10-0, and I don't think anybody could have predicted
Nobody thought that. Nobody thought we were going to be 10-0.
Right.
You looked at the losses. You looked at the losses in players. You lose an Abel. You lose a Fosse. You lose basically 4/5 of your offensive line.
Right.
Not to mention your tight end.
Yeah.
It's hard to replace all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then you have Jeff Gabinelli, who played some guard. You had Ronnie Benito, capable guard.
Right.
Where do you go from there?
And Jeff wasn't able to play till freshman year either.
Yeah.
And I mean, he was a very good player for you guys.
Same thing. Lorenzo Heights boy, a little too big for Pop Warner. And you suffer that. But when you're on the field, it's amazing how things change.
Right. And, that seemed like a fun year for you guys. You guys seemed to enjoy yourselves a lot. You guys pulled out games, hard-fought games. I look at the Seymour game. You guys were trailing late in the game, and then I believe Jimmy Lewis made a long run towards the end. Pete Sackey had a touchdown, which was huge. I mean, that team overachieved so much. And then, of course, you play Ansonia. Now, keep in mind, Ansonia was 3-3, which is unheard of for Ansonia.
Oh, Doug Morrell had a tough year that year.
But Ansonia had a good little back in Gordon Piper, and the first half, he was running all over Derby. Adjusted at halftime. In the second half, he couldn't do anything.
Nothing.
That's the measure of a great team. And I look at that team a lot. They would bend a lot, but they wouldn't break.
No, and that's true. We knew that we were tough enough up front to control the line, and quick enough up front to be able to create some havoc. And at that halftime, a few things were said to a few people, myself included. Probably can't say them on the radio. But it changed the demeanor of a lot of us.
Right.
And stopping the run was, again, our focus.
Right.
And that was always our but we became afraid of the pass.
Right.
So we became tentative on defense. I remember there was a couple of spots being indecisive on a couple of guys making their wrong reads.
Right.
And just sustaining drives for Ansonia. Correctable things.
Right.
They were corrected.
And that Ansonia team, I know they had a bad year, but they had a lot of talent.
They did.
Andre Holman.
They did.
They had Michael Shortle.
Yeah.
James Lane was the quarterback. Brett Harvey. I mean, this wasn't a bad Ansonia. Talent-wise, it wasn't a bad team at all.
Knowing them as friends as we got older, they admit they were probably a little undisciplined.
Right.
They didn't believe as much in Coach Morrell because he wasn't from Ansonia. You know how kids can be.
Right. And back then, it was unheard of for somebody to come from the outside, especially in Ansonia.
Right.
If you weren't, a home guy, you weren't going to
you weren't gonna succeed there.
Right. Now, let me ask you this. You don't look like a guy that would ever make excuses. I've always heard that Shelton ran the sprinklers in that Thanksgiving game. Do you believe that to be true? Do you definitely think?
I have had a few conversations through the years with some pretty good people. I believe that is the case.
Right.
I don't care. They were bigger than us.
Right.
We couldn't move them in the mud. It is what it is.
Right.
How
tough was that loss after being 10-0? And you guys had just wrapped up the Hoosie, which that had to be a good feeling to win the Housatonic League as well.
It was nice to capture a week early.
Right.
In week 9, knowing that we were the champions.
Do you think the outcome would have been different if you guys knew you had to win that game to win the Hoosie, or do you think it was just a bad game for you guys?
I think that the mud was a major factor.
Yeah, Lewis couldn't run that day at all.
We couldn't. I couldn't get my feet out of the mud.
Right.
They were.
And keep in mind, there was no rain that day. So,
no. On arguably, at that time in the state, the best drainage field.
Yes.
It was crowned. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
I mean, it was, and for it to be that muddy without a storm, of course, conspiracy theory.
Right.
No excuse for us not to play again. But I look back and we had a lousy week of practice.
Yes.
We did.
Right.
And it's hard to argue against preparation.
Right.
If you don't prepare yourselves,
And again,
you're gonna
Riggio
suffer.
wanted to beat Derby.
Yeah.
He was hungry for that game.
Yes, he was.
Now, let me ask you, you lose the following week to Immaculate. You guys looked so good in the first half, and then the second half, everything just went the other way. Do you think, though, the Shelton game, you guys were still kind of like, there was a letdown?
It was a little hangover.
Yeah.
A little hangover.
And you had just won the state title the year before, so I don't want to say you guys weren't hungry, but maybe it wasn't there like it should have been.
We might not have taken Immaculate as seriously as we should have.
Right.
Because of their losses and maybe our lack of respect for the FCAC at the time.
Right.
Or wherever they came from. I believe that was the FCAC. We were the Hoosie.
Right.
And we were the Valley of Champions, and to us, that was the difference.
Right.
And unfortunately, it was a tale of two halves. That was a rough second half at Wilton High School, man, because
Yes.
we didn't have a lot of answers for them, and
They were very good. Yeah.
But I can honestly tell you that there were times in the game where if we, as an offensive line, could have given Kinger another second, Pete
Right.
Sackey was wide open in the end zone on numerous occasions.
Yes.
I watched the film. You could see the poor guy screaming, jumping up and down all by himself, clapping his hands. I'm open.
Yeah.
And Chris is running for his life.
Right.
So we all had a major part in, that loss.
Right.
So it was a tough one.
Right. One of the highest honors I think a player could have back then, Derby was such a special program, is to be elected captain. You were elected quad captain in the offseason. How good of a feeling was that for you?
Still gives me goosebumps.
Yeah.
Yeah, because to know that you're recognized by your peers,
Right.
by your brothers.
And coaches, because coaches I definitely think play a part in that
Yeah.
too. Right.
But the coaches, I think the coaches knew who the leaders were. And I don't want to say, not to slight anybody,
Right.
but I knew, and you mentioned John Del Pratt, and, we mentioned Lou Battolino, Winston Dawson. Those are my guys.
Right.
John Rossetti, those are my guys. I mean,
Yes.
that's 5 senior linemen
Right.
from one class.
And those guys loved Derby too.
Yeah.
I mean, they really did.
Yeah. And they did anything I asked them to.
Yeah.
And that was the ultimate in respect.
Right.
I would have them doing touch and goes during captain's practice on East Street Hill,
Wow.
from the bottom to the top, Mike.
Yeah.
And these are big boys, and they did it. We did it,
And probably didn't complain.
and
either.
didn't complain
Right.
because that's how we ran our captain's practices.
Right.
We ran our captain's practices sometimes harder than some people's practices.
Right. And I'm sure you guys came into camp that, month in great shape.
We were pretty well represented, physically. We did all right. Even our
Right.
big heavies, they were running mileage in 7.5 minutes.
Right.
That was good. We were doing aerobics. I remember Coach brought in we had
Yes.
some gals.
I did hear about that.
Yeah.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah, but that was bonding.
Right.
Because some guys don't have the rhythm and they're doing it, but we're all doing it together,
And that's all that matters.
and that's all that mattered.
Right. So let's talk about the 87 season. Buff, one of the things I've always said is that's the greatest team never to win a state title, because while the 85 and 90 team were great teams, this 87 team may be one of the best Derby ever had, in my opinion. I mean, you look at it, like you said, and they didn't kill people, but they knew how to grind it out and win games. And I mean, that was a special season, the 87 team. You start off the year against Seymour, and that was a dogfight game. I think Mark Angeletti had 25 tackles in that game. He was a monster that day.
Yeah.
And you win 14-12. But talk about that 87 season, and keep in mind, very gutsy move by Coach DeCenzo. He moved Chris King from quarterback to tailback, and he had Tony Pick come in as your quarterback. And a lot of people forget, I think Piccirillo had about 10 or 11 touchdown passes that year.
Let me tell you something. Piccirillo still owes me some dinners. He didn't get sacked his senior year.
Right.
See, people, that was the deal.
And he was a lefty quarterback.
And he was a lefty, so
Yeah.
things changed, So, I mean, which he was a great friend of mine, which made it all more
And he
imperative
was
for me.
also, people forget this too, I believe he was the valedictorian, wasn't he, of your class? Or if he wasn't, he was right there.
One of the top couple. I think
Yeah.
it might have been
So very smart kid
between
as well.
him, Foley. I mean, we had some
Yeah.
Lou Chow, all intelligent guys.
Right.
We really smart kids.
Right.
Smart kids. The whole 3 years. I mean, you had Bogart. He was a smart kid. You had the Tilkeys, smart guys.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you go to my year, great move bringing Tony to quarterback. It helped us to be more athletic.
Right.
Because it did take away from the option at quarterback and that danger that Kinger would put on the corner. But we didn't have to do that as much.
Right.
Charlie had a little more faith in our offensive line. We had 3 seniors with experience as juniors.
Right.
Our tight end was a 2-year starter.
Right.
So he felt a little more comfortable making those moves. Bringing Tony in at quarterback and we ran that wing T, that modified wing T, and that was a great offense for Kinger. It was able to get them to the corners, with some speed, with some momentum, and it really benefited our team.
Right. And I mean, King, both sides of the ball, he had a great year.
Sure.
He really did. He's
an athlete.
And he was great about the move. He didn't complain. I believe his father was okay with it too. His father
great
even
family.
said, whatever you got to do to win. I look at a couple games that, we're going to talk about Shelton, but Lyman Hall and North Haven, those were dogfight games. You guys win 7-0 against Lyman Hall. I think Andy Cota ran like a pass for 81 yards, scored a touchdown.
Another unsung hero right there for our team.
Yeah, and then the North Haven game, they were about to go in the end zone, and you guys pick up a big fumble, and you win 6-0, and kept that streak alive, which was pressure. Talk about those 2 games, because those were tough games.
Well, I'll tell you one thing. Lyman Hall, they always try to intimidate us.
Yeah.
We'd roll up and
they hate Derby too.
All of those schools hated Derby.
Yeah.
They did.
East Haven,
All of the schools, all the old Hoosier schools, they hated Derby because how dare that little school come in here and beat us year after year after year. And that was our mentality. North Haven we were going to beat them.
Right.
20 some odd years, we were going to beat them.
Yeah.
That was just our, and we were a little arrogant. I'll put it out there. We were a little arrogant on our line because, no, we weren't big, but we were strong
and tough. Yeah,
we were stronger than most teams because we spent our time in the weight room. We had multiple kids bench pressing 300 pounds, squatting. I mean, we had strong.
And keep in mind,
kids.
Kids were sneaking into that weight room too to try to lift.
Yeah, we had our ways.
Right. But that's the dedication because the fact that kids are trying to sneak in.
Yeah.
Some kids, as time went on, they just wanted to do their workout and be able to leave, Basically, you're just rushing through it. These kids wanted to keep lifting all the time.
It was a year round for us. And it really was. It was fun.
Right.
It was enjoyable. So we knew that we could get 3 yards when we wanted it.
Right.
So there were times when we would talk trash. We would tell them, we're coming right here.
Right.
We're running right at you. Not fair to our running backs, maybe not, but, as far as offensive linemen, that's part of the game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And that's been going on for years.
So there were a couple that happened a lot in North Haven. That happened a lot in Lyman Hall. So it was kind of they were tough. Every kid, I think Lyman Hall had this young kid, Higgins. I think he was a junior at the time. Ronell, good player. But that was a team that we knew they had a lot of junior talent. Yeah. Their senior class was a little weaker. Their junior class was
very good.
Was good.
Right.
So we knew that class was somebody that we would have to beat.
Right.
Not because of the seniors, but because of the juniors, like we were the year before.
Right.
North Haven was like us. They were short, squatty, line of attack. They were going to plug up every hole.
Yeah.
And they ran. I think they ran a 50, and they just kind of slanted in every gap.
Yeah.
And they did a good job. But we had some letdowns. I mean, I personally had my only personal foul. I had a few choice words on a Mark Delmaro busted a play, which should have been touchdown, and they called it back. And I still remember Winston Dawson, my man Winston, 20 yards away from the play, made a little block. Some say the head was in front,
right?
Nowhere near the play, and I had a few words for the referee. Flag, 15-yard penalty. Charlie calls me over, gives me the riot act. Buffalo, and then lo and behold, that was we stopped them for the rest of the game, and that was it. I mean, once that happened, we knew.
Yeah, and I mean, again, that team knew how to win. The Ansonia game was a tough loss. It's still heartbreaking to think about it. what's heartbreaking the most is they really beat you on 2 plays.
Sure.
They had 2 bombs early on in the first quarter, and that won the game. I mean, talk about that. I mean, Chris King tells me to this day, as much as the Hoosie was great, that's what he remembers the most about senior year. Is that the same for you?
Yes. Absolutely. Because we knew, again, physically, we beat them up.
Right.
And they knew it. And again, we're friends now. And they'll admit it. When you're alone with them, they admit it. We physically beat them up. But 2 plays. Second play, I mean, that long pass, we knew what was coming.
Yeah.
Mr. Alu told the boys that you play your 3 deep, know the deep cross is coming. Don't bite.
Yeah.
They bit.
And it burned.
And it burnt us bad.
Right.
But we came right back.
Yeah, you were down 14-0, and you came right back and scored 2. Picarillo, 2 touchdown passes to King.
Yeah.
And I mean, they got a late touchdown late in the game that kind of sealed the game.
Keep in mind
they had great coaching. So I mean,
God, yeah. I mean, they brought back that whole staff was tremendous between Bobby Lisi and Coach Hunt. I mean, they were good. They knew the game.
And James Lane was awesome.
Jimmy was a leader.
Right.
He was a leader, and he was unflappable, and he had faith in his ability. I remember chasing him a couple of times, and eyes stayed down the field. Chased him out of bounds. His eyes stayed down the field. He knew I was on him, but he was unflappable.
Yeah,
and that's what you respected about him.
Oh yeah, and he's a good guy too. He really
Great guy.
After a loss like that, you don't know what to expect. Your season could either go forward or it could go backwards. We talked about John Del Prete, and I'm sure you remember this. You guys play Sheehan the following week. He recovers a fumble, and it took literally the entire Sheehan team to take him down.
Yeah.
He must have got about 50 yards.
Yeah.
Because they couldn't tackle him.
He was had strong legs. He kept those legs pumping.
Yeah. But you know what I remember is you guys killed Sheehan that game, 40-0.
Yeah.
So you guys came right back.
Yeah.
You said, you know what? The Ansonia game's over with. Nothing we could do. We're going to come right back, and we still have a Hoosie to try to win. And you guys really, the last 4 games, played tremendous. I mean, the offense was gelling. The defense was gelling. I mean, how special was it for you to play with these guys? And,
loved it.
I mean, the brotherhood.
It really was. And we ran a 6-man front to open up, tackling lanes for Mule, for Angeletti.
Yeah.
I knew that wherever coach put me on the defensive line, whether it was on the nose, the tackle, or inside the end, I knew that Del Prete doing his job. I knew Winston was doing his job. Lou Battolino was doing his job. We were clogging up the holes. We were blowing up gaps. We were doing what our jobs were doing. So Angeletti could get 25 tackles a game.
Yeah. And nobody cared about individual goals. Yeah.
Unselfish team, Mike.
Right.
And that's what I loved about it.
And it really was. And I mean, so many people loved this team. The one thing that Charlie DeCenzo wasn't able to do, the one thing you guys weren't able to do, was to beat Shelton. Thanksgiving game, I think people thought Derby could win, but nobody could have predicted what happened. I mean, Greg Petnoa went nuts that day.
Almost didn't play.
Yeah, 4 interceptions. Tony Pick had 3 touchdown passes. You guys just did what you wanted to do. And let's be honest, I think Tommy Oko, after getting hit by Angeletti a couple times, didn't want to get hit anymore. I mean, Mark was an animal that day. One of the greatest moments of that game is at the end of the game, you're in the camera and you're going, Hoosie, we did it, we won it, and you took that bucket and you dumped it on Charlie, knowing that you repeated as Hoosie champs, and he got that win against Shelton. How special was that win? And I always heard the story from Coach D that Charlie was yelling at you guys at the half. You're up 26-0. He's telling you, this game isn't over. He's like, you would think you were down 26-0.
Yeah. Oh, no, it's true. He was not. He wanted that game.
Yeah.
That was his. That game was for him.
Right.
I mean, and we knew it. We knew it. As to a man, we knew that game was for him.
Right.
It wasn't for us. It wasn't for us. Because he needed that.
And he was a guy you loved. I mean, you really did. I mean,
I love that man.
Yeah.
He means more to me than he'll ever know.
Right.
I mean, I have a lot of personal reasons for it, but just he brought about the best in a lot of us.
Yeah.
Because of his cerebral nature and his willingness to get in your face. I mean, we all have a story, a Charlie story too.
Right.
Of grabbing the face mask. I mean, he was intense.
Yeah.
But we knew that this game was for him. And again, the love for that man.
And everything went right that game. I mean,
Yeah.
you know, like I said, Pettinella, I mean, he had the game of his life. And Tony Pick, 3 touchdown passes. And keep in mind, this was a good Shelton team. This is a team that had Ansonia beat and lost, you know, the last drive of the game. I mean, this team was
big,
a very tough
strong
team. And again, Riggio's a great coach. But you guys just went out there, and I mean, I know the Ansonia loss stings, but that had to be a great feeling to bury them.
It was nice, and I tell you, part of the reason was because they were cocky.
Yes.
They came up to our field with bandanas, shirts on that said number 1 defense in the state.
Yes.
And they'd given up 46 points until that point, I believe, something like that.
It wasn't a lot, no.
And we had given up 60-something. Who are they? And that's how we looked at it. That was our defense.
Yeah.
We saw them because back in the day it had the one doorway up in the clubhouse. It's since been cinder blocked up, but we could see them. And I remember looking at Nicky Rizzio and Nicky looking at me, and we knew.
Yeah.
We knew.
This was
our day.
And you know what? I mean, Derby's goal was always to win the Hoosie first.
Yeah.
I know other teams state championship first, but you play a league all year. That's what the goal is, to win the Hoosie.
Yes.
And I mean, think about it. You're 3 years on varsity. You guys won a championship every year. Not many could say that. Talk about, I know you're not big on individual stuff, but I mean, you did make all Hoosie. You did make all area. You did make all Valley. I believe you made Class S All-State, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
I mean, what is the feeling like when Coach DeCenzo tells you that you made these things? It has to be a great feeling because you know the work you put in.
Yeah, it really is to be recognized and to receive the accolades is awesome. I mean, especially as a kid, as a teenager. But then you look at it and you know you're not alone.
Right.
And I said this, and anybody who knows who's talked to me, if I weren't on that team, Lou Badalino would have done everything.
Right.
Because Louis, you know,
and
consistent.
that class was tight. You know, the girls in the class were tight with the guy. I mean, the cheerleaders loved that team.
Yeah.
You know, that whole class, like, that was like a family. I don't think anybody disliked anybody in that class, which is rare.
It wasn't cliquey. So I said, we were not a clique. You know, before the season, we went out together. We went to dinner together. We did things together. It wasn't 5 of us. It was 25 of us.
Right.
Because we knew that that's where we were. That was our strength, together.
Right.
And we knew that when we worked together, we couldn't be beaten.
Right.
Yeah, and that was our mentality. We knew, and honestly, we felt we were the best team in the state.
And in a lot of ways, people thought that as well. I mean, you guys, again, you lost by a touchdown to Ansonia, and there's always been talk, what if they played again? I mean, Fitch got beat by New London, and that kind of sealed that. But you always wonder what it would have been like to play them again. You know, they had beaten Derby twice in the playoffs. You always felt like third time was the charm. This team was going to do it. Because, I mean, this team refused to lose. I mean, they really did.
We were tested, and we were veterans.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that put us we were
veterans, but you also had guys that were first-year players, like starting, and they really stepped up. And I think everybody brought out the best in everybody, which is, you know, what made that team so special. That, to me, that 87 team is one of the best teams Derby's ever had, at least that I saw.
I agree. I agree. I'll put us up with anybody. I mean, we heard the rumble. I'll tell you, Mike, coming into the season, we heard the rumblings from the Sparrows.
Yeah. The
comparisons to the 69 team and the 71 team.
Yeah.
Because of all the people we had coming back. We loved it.
Oh, yeah.
We loved that. We reveled in that because those were the standard bearers.
Right.
If you were compared to anybody, that's who you wanted to be compared to. And we wanted to live up to those expectations.
Right.
We went 9-1, you know.
You can't get any better than that. I mean, I know you could go 10-0, 11-0, but especially in a league you guys played in where it's physical every week, and people don't realize that. Maybe East Haven doesn't have a great record. Guess what? They will torture you in that game. I mean, they will spit on you. They will grab your face mask. They'll play dirty.
Sure.
So every game was and Brantford's always been a physical team.
Yes, they have.
You know, so I mean, and Cheshire. I mean, I know they weren't successful yet, but they were on their way. I mean,
they'd made their mark because the year before with the Schwab and those guys.
They had a good year.
Good year.
Yeah.
You know, they were said to have going to beat us. Right. You know, and that's when Ray McGee had his bust out game as a junior.
Right.
You know, the 72-yard run, and you know,
he had a great game.
Yeah. So we knew that those were good programs.
Right.
You know, and Cheshire was one of the teams that beat us as freshmen.
Right. And there were no nights off. I mean,
No.
you could not. I mean, I know you guys killed Sheehan, but at the same time, Sheehan was making their way to being a good program. They weren't there yet, but they were on their way, and they were starting to play better, each year. I mean, Sheehan one year won the state title in
South-
85, and you
85.
guys killed them 30 to nothing. I mean, but that was the thing about Derby back then. Winning was what everybody wanted. It wasn't, I want to make all Valley or I want to make all who's.
Right.
It was just winning. And if somebody had to get moved from quarterback because it would help the team, they were all unselfish. They would do it, and nobody complained.
Sure. I mean, that was the mentality. I mean, my own personal thing, I remember as a freshman, Tommy D'Onofrio. We had the sign-ups. And he said, what do you want to play? I said, well, fullback and linebacker. I was pretty fast at the time. He said, well, what's your name? I said, it's Buff Bartone. He goes,
Right.
You're a tackle. I said, what do you mean? I'm the second. He goes, you're a tackle. He goes, your cousins were tackles. Your father was a tackle. He goes, you're going to be a tackle.
Right.
He goes, I'll make you an all-state tackle, but you're going to be a tackle. Okay. I am what I am.
Right.
I'll be a tackle.
And it worked out.
And it
great.
worked out, yeah.
How tough was it the first year out of high school for you to be in the stands? And I know you went to college and played a little bit, but how tough was it for you to, not be a Red Raider anymore? I mean, you're always a Red Raider, but not to be on the field.
To not be able to help when they're struggling was the
Right.
hardest part.
Right.
To see guys who played my position or that are doing things that are taking them out of a play and you can't do, and you're helpless. That was the hard part.
Right.
Just watching the guys grow, that was awesome. Seeing these young guys who were freshmen in 8th grade looking up to us.
Yeah.
They're young men. And I mean, that was the cool thing.
And it really was. I mean, people would, because I know this myself, I think I was maybe in 6th or 7th grade when you had got out of high school.
Yeah.
When I would see you guys walk, and I'd always want to say hi to you, but like you didn't know me from anything, and I was like scared to do it because these guys do become larger than life people.
True.
When you went, like when I would see Mark Angeletti, I used to be afraid of him because
Yeah,
he was
yeah.
great. So I mean, that's how it was back then.
It's true.
People loved that program. They really did.
Yeah. And we loved being part of the program.
Right.
To know, and you knew as a senior or a junior and your player, the Pop Warner kids are looking at you with starry eyes. You know that, and
Right.
you love that, and that's part of what keeps you going too, because you're a leader.
Right.
You're a leader in your community for these younger kids coming up,
Exactly.
and you hope that the examples that you set at that point are enough to get them to keep following in your footsteps and carry on the tradition.
Right. And you've given a lot back to Derby. You've coached Pop Warner. You've coached Biddy League. You even coached the freshman team with Tommy D'Onofrio and
Yeah.
Andy Mancini. And I mean, so you never really, you may have stopped playing, but you never really left Derby.
Never. No, I bleed red. I was born in Derby. I'll die in Derby. I love this town.
Right.
City, I should say. I love this city. We're a city. But I can't imagine being anywhere else.
Right.
I bought a house in Derby. I raised my kids in Derby. They've all gone through Derby schools. My
Right.
boys play for Derby.
Yeah.
There's no better place as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
It's my little piece of heaven.
Exactly. Before we go, Buff, hard to believe it's been an hour. We could keep doing this. What was the greatest moment in your career? And I mean, it's hard to pick because there were so many, but what was the thing you got the most out of it?
My own personal satisfaction or what?
Personally, yeah.
Family.
Yeah.
I mean, just being part of the family.
Right.
And a close second is getting Charlie his
Win against Shelton.
Yeah.
And you talk about family. These guys don't just become your family on the field. When everybody's going through tough times in their life,
Yeah.
these people are the type of guys that
I've been
they'll
there.
make you feel better just by being around you. You know you're not doing anything alone. You got these people always to have your back. Even, time may separate you, and distance may, but you'll always be there for each other.
That's it. I mean, that's the truth. We got guys across the country. Chris Lucha was over across the state.
Yeah.
Where is he? California or we still keep in contact.
Right.
He's a Red Raider.
Right.
And he bleeds red out there. And I love it.
Right. It never dies.
Never dies.
Right. Well, I really want to thank you for coming on today. This is an absolute honor for me. Like I said, I grew up watching you, and it was just a pleasure. And I really do thank you for coming on today.
No, Mike, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And that was Buff Bartone. And like I've said many times, if you want to talk about somebody who exemplifies a Red Raider, it's definitely Buff Bartone. For Valley Sports Rewind, I'm Mike Kenichi saying goodbye, everyone.